We are back on MorningLine. Thanks for joining us this morning, talking the immigration crisis, the situation where we stand today, and a lot going on. With us this morning, Representative John Ray Clements, Democrat here in the state of Tennessee. Good to have him on, along with Attorney Elliot Osment, who for years here has been working on the immigration issue with a number of clients. You've been doing this for a long time, Elliot, and thank you for coming on. I want to remind you we're going to be doing another program on this very topic with someone with a different slant on this. Steve Gill will be coming on next week, and he has a different perspective on some, but we're also taking your calls and questions however you may feel about the issue. We have some folks that waited through the break. Let's go to Fran. Fran, good morning.
Good morning.
Oh, I'm sorry, it's Grady. We lost Fran. Hi, Grady. Go ahead, buddy.
Doing fine. You know, this president is one for creating problems, and, you know, he's got his own mess going with North Korea, and you know, almost gets us to nuclear war. Then he wants the Pulitzer Prize for going over and talking to the people. And then, you know, his favorite character is Andrew Jackson, who sent my folks, Cherokee people, on a trail of tears. But he let them, you know, Andrew Jackson at least let them keep their own children and didn't put them under arrest, you know, he just put them on the road. But, you know, and then he's trying to say it was the Democrats' fault when he himself did the resolution that caused this problem to begin with, and now he going to sign another resolution that says we're going to quit. The man is trying to keep us off this Russia deal. I don't know what Putin's got him on, but he needs an excuse, and I'll hang up and listen to y'all's comment.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, he responded to this, you know, based on the reaction. And I think what you said makes sense. Sometimes it's hard to know what he really feels, but who's surrounding him and how that plays out. Now, we do know that Congress is going to look at two bills today. Neither one of you, I think there's much chance of either of them passing. One with regarding to funding the wall, I guess, and the other one with regard to maybe finally addressing the situation with all the Dreamers. Is that?
I don't think either one of them will pass. Of course, if they do, well and good. But that might create a whole new set of problems. What we really need in this country is comprehensive immigration reform. And both the Democrats and the Republicans have failed in that. We've had two attempts in recent years. One in 2009, and the House passed a comprehensive immigration reform bill, and the Senate did not. And there were several Democrats that voted against it. And I have their names, and I have a long memory. I not only look like an elephant, I have the mind of an elephant. And then in 2014, they tried again. And this time, the Senate passed it, and the House refused to even bring it to the floor. So, and that was when the Senate was, when the House was controlled by Republicans. So both parties have failed us. And I don't know when they're going to learn their lesson. But every time a political party gets in charge and blocks immigration reform, they suffer the consequences. And now poor President Trump is suffering the consequences because prior administrations couldn't get it done.
I'm wondering, aside from, you know, he talks about the federal level, from the state, and it is a federal issue, is the state of Tennessee, what more can we do in this state? What does it mean for the state of Tennessee what the president did yesterday? Aside from, I suppose, the issue of whether or not we take in any of these refugees.
Well, the state's jurisdiction is quite frankly limited on this issue. This is a real federal issue. Of course, you know, I've encouraged the governor to do any and everything that he can. Of course, the issue exists that we've sent our, you know, our National Guard has been called to the border to help enforce these rules. So no one is ever going to deny that we need to have, or debate that we need to have immigration laws. The question is, what do those laws look like? Do they make sense? Are they in line with our fundamental ideals as Americans? And how are we going to enforce them? And I think, Mr. Osment is absolutely correct. Every political party that's been in power has failed us. And somebody has got to step up to the plate, find common ground, and get this immigration reformed. Our policies are antiquated and they have to be addressed, because there has to be laws and they're going to have to be enforced, but there are questions as to what those laws should be and how they're going to be enforced.
All right, let's go to Lucy. Lucy, good morning.
Hey, good morning. I'm going to make this quick because I know you got to go to break. Okay, the first thing is I've got a question for the lawyer there, Mr. Osment, and then Mr. Clemens, the state representative. Mr. Osment, you were right. Both feet have to be on the soil for asylum. That's the catch part of catch and release. They're not allowing these people to gain asylum at the border. They're turning them away, and they're coming back around the other way. Now they're illegal crossing the border. So with that being said, this is what I'm going to direct towards Mr. Clemens. But Mr. Osment, you can comment when I hang up, but there is 4 bills being held back. They're rushing these 2 bills through and overshooting these 4 bills that are comprehensive immigration reform bills, and I heard them all on NPR yesterday being discussed. I want you to talk about that. Mr. Clemens, you are a state representative, but here's the deal. These people, I have heard, I think this was on BBC, they showed a company down in El Salvador. It's a clothing company, and it's called League Clothing. It is owned and ran by an ex-MS-13 gang member, and most of the people there are working there are MS-13 gang members, ex-members. I have heard from this report that when they're turned away from the border here, these El Salvadorans, and charged with this petty crime, and they're deported back to El Salvador, they are forced to work as slave laborers in one of these clothing companies down there. I want you to get our congressmen, our federal congressmen and senators, to see if this is true.
Okay, I don't know where that goes. If they go back, I think part of it is sometimes you hear the president talk about some of the people coming over have criminal backgrounds, and we don't want them coming here.
Well, let's get straight on MS-13 first of all. That is not a Salvadorian gang. Most people here in this area don't realize that. That is an American gang that formed in Los Angeles, California, and then they were deported, and now they're free to do and operate whatever they want to in El Salvador. But they started out as an American gang up here due to Ronald Reagan's policies. And now we're suffering the consequences of their activities. Nobody wants gangs up here in America. Nobody. That includes me. If they come to me and I find out they're a gang member, I will not represent them. That's just simple. There are too many other good people that need to have a break and need to be represented in our courts to allow a gang member to clog it up. So that's our policy in our office. Now, as far as what this lady says about, I forget now what her question was to me, but that's my office policy when it comes to gang members.
All right,
Phil, she seemed to be, the question to me seemed to be directed at why when I work with the federal officials, and we're in constant communication. Of course, you know, our federal elected leaders, they have their own agenda and they'll do what they want, but you know, I'm more than happy to work with Congressman Cooper and anybody who will listen to try to bring some compassion and some common sense to these policies at the federal level. And we'll obviously do whatever we can to share ideas and legal perspective on this as lawyers, but you know, the federal government is the federal government.
Well, here are the reports I'm getting. I'm getting reports that Border Patrol officers are telling people before they cross the line on the border, they are pre-screening them on the Mexican side of the border, and they are telling many of these people that we don't have any room for you right now, go back and try another day. That's what they're doing. And that is wrong. That's in violation of U.S. law and international law, which we have signed on to with treaties years and years ago, back in the 50s and 60s. And so there is a lawsuit being filed, or was filed yesterday, by, let me see what the outfit was. I think it was the Rio Grande Legal Aid Society, and they have filed a lawsuit in district court, and they have challenged this practice of telling these would-be asylees that we don't have any room for you today. Go back home.
They're saying that in the sense that, meaning we don't have any room in detention for you because we're going to get you when you come across the border, but they're basically deterring them from even trying to get across.
Exactly. And as long as they cannot get across and plant both feet in the U.S. soil, then they can't apply for asylum.
All right, on that note, we got to take a quick break. When we come back, our final segment, more calls, more of our conversation with our fine guests right after this. Stay with us.